In 1985, a young man by the name James is watching a TV show about a legendary artist, Salvador Dali. The show ends on a note that Dali has been gravely injured and is now receiving medical assistance. The movie takes us back to 1974 in New York, in the Dufresne Art Gallery where James works. Dali's wife, Gala, calls Christophe asking for the money he made from selling Dali's paintings. Christophe pleads with her to give him more time, but she answers aggressively and tells him Dali needs the money now. After the call ends, Christophe packs the money left on him and sends James to deliver it to Gala. When he gets to the hotel, he meets Dali's secretary who takes him to Daliland to see Gala. James can't get his eyes off Dali when he sees Dali, because he has always admired his works. Gala finds him and takes her money. Leaving, she asks James to tell Christophe to bring him when he's attending dinner tomorrow. James asks Christophe why Gala invited him to the dinner, and he reveals to him that Gala has a thing for handsome young men. He adds that no matter what happens, he should try not to insult her, but rather turn down her gestures in a nice and respectful way. At the dinner party, Gala approaches James and starts touching him inappropriately. Amanda, Dali's muse, arrives at the party. Dali then talks about the paintings he's currently working on. When everyone leaves the table, Ginesta approaches James and asks if he is here for Gala. James wonders why everyone thinks he is there because of Gala, and Ginesta tells him they think that way because of his charming looks. That night, James prints all Dali's signatures and binds them together. All his signatures read Dali in different fonts and languages. James presents the book to Dali the next day. Dali takes the book and gives James the name San Sebastian because he thinks James has the face of an angel. Dali then tells Christophe to let James be his new assistant until the exhibition ends. James begs Christophe to make him work with Dali. Christophe only accepts on the note that he always makes sure Dali produces enough paintings for the upcoming exhibition, because all he knows how to do best these days is to host huge parties and orgies. James accepts the deal and starts working with Dali. Gala starts touching James, but he remembers what Christophe told him and turns her down nicely. One day, James makes a mistake when mixing the paint and receives severe scolding from Gala. Gala has been with Dali since he started painting, so she knows exactly what the artist needs at any given time. She also knows the kind of support to give him which enables him to paint more. Dali then tells James that without Gala, he's nothing, which is why he'll do everything to make her happy. He shares the story of how he and Gala met. They met in Cadax, Spain. Gala was married to his poet friend by then. Dali had a strange laughter when he was young, and because of that, people thought he was having some mental issues. Gala was the only one that saw him differently, and that is where it all began. Dali cuts the story and tells James he needs some space of air to give him strength. James tries to get him to paint, claiming that Gala will be mad at him when he takes a break to do something different. But he replies that she is with her new lover, Jeff, a singer popularly known as Jesus Christ, and that means she won't be back now. The next day, Dali doesn't work. He goes with James to the Prince and Pauper's tea. Dali sits with Alice Cooper and talks about holograms, saying it is the ultimate art form, not painting and sculptures. Alice doesn't get why a skilled artist is speaking that way, but he agrees with him anyways. He then calls James and introduces him to Ginesta, who he met at the dinner party. Ginesta then takes James away for a little chit-chat. As they talk, Jesus Christ arrives. Gala leaves everything and goes to him immediately. Dali is jealous seeing Gala with him, but her happiness is what he wants. Ginesta whispers to James that she wants to leave the place because it's boring. He heartily takes her to his apartment, and soon things begin to heat up. The next day, Gala goes to Captain Moore for money. She used the money meant to pay for the hotel bills and parties to sponsor Jesus Christ's music career. Captain Moore sends James to go for money from Carter Gallery, another gallery that sells Dali's paintings. When James gets to the gallery, he persuades a rich woman into buying Dali's paintings since Desmond couldn't do that. After the woman accepts to buy them, Desmond thanks James and gives him the money he came for. Dali plans to host another party. Christophe gets pissed off when James tells him about it, but he assures him Dali works for the show every day, so there's nothing he needs to worry about. Dali goes to the party with Amanda since Gala is nowhere to be found. When Dali asks of Gala's whereabouts, Captain Moore tells him Gala is resting because she hasn't been well, but we see Gala in the studio esteeming it Jesus Christ's music. Dali entertains himself with Amanda and his secretary. James also does the same with Ginesta in Dali's studio after the party, while Dali watches them and enjoys the moment himself. The next morning, James asks Janesta why Dali was watching them last night, and she explains that Dali watches everything. He hasn't been intimate with a woman in years, so he uses that as his source of pleasure. Actually, that is not what happens. We don't know which word to describe his sexuality. James goes to work only to encounter Gala fuming with rage because the exhibition is happening in 3 days and Dali isn't ready. He has done nothing but throw parties. She needs money and Dali isn't painting enough to help her make the money she needs. Gala warns him not to step out until he produces enough painting for the exhibition. Sometime later, Dali tells James that Gala's anger has pushed him to work harder. He orders him to bring Janesta, Amanda, and some models. When they arrive, he dips their butts into the paint and applies it on his sheets to progress work. Dali works on them day and night. On the day of the exhibition, Janesta shows up with the man and introduces James to him as his friend. James' face shows disbelief when he hears the description assigned to him. He shows more when he learns that her actual name is Lucy and that Janesta is a name Dali uses for all his blonde girls. Amanda consoles him with a champagne, and before he could sip it, Christoph drugs him aside, telling him that Dali and Gala are having an argument about Jesus Christ. Gala accidentally pushes Dali and he falls in front of all the guests. She helps him up and he also fixes her wig. They then walk out of the show with everyone staring at them. The reviews for the exhibition came out bad and only a few of the paintings sold. Christoph is displeased with the results, so he brings in a new secretary and fires James. James goes to Dali to tell him he got fired. When he gets there, Dali also tells him he isn't happy with the reviews, so he's leaving for Port Liget, Spain. James breaks the news to him that he got fired and he apologizes for being the cause. James, while leaving the hotel, bumps into Captain Moore. He offers him a new job in Spain and Paris. For his first assignment, he goes to Paris to collect prints from Gilbert. He meets Captain Moore with them and he only picks one pack and tells him to bring the rest the next day. James visits Dali in Spain. He is wowed to see Dali acting like a baby because he had a small cut on his finger. In this situation, the only person that can calm him is Gala. James then goes to fetch Gala. She is in her private castle with Jesus Christ. Gala has given him space in there to do his music. Gala becomes angry seeing James because she knows he's there because of Dali. Jesus Christ calms her down and tells her he'll wait for her to return before he leaves. Though she's hurt, she leaves with James. On their way, Gala tells James about how she helped Dali become who he is now and how she feels unappreciated. She says Dali is the one that receives all the fame and she is just there, in the background where she belongs. When they get to the house, Gala pampers Dali and brings him back to his senses. After some time, James joins Dali at the riverside where he met Gala for the first time. Dali then tells James how he and Gala survived in a fisherman's cottage. It is in that cottage that he had the inspiration to work on his most famous painting, The Persistence of Memory. Immediately Gala sets eyes on the work. She pours out to him that no one has done a painting like this before and anyone that sees it will never forget it. Days later, Captain Moore makes Dali sign on plain sheets. Gala wonders what they are going to use them for. She doesn't ask either and keeps her question to herself. She later hears Captain Moore explaining to James what they are going to use the sheets for. He wants to print Dali's works on them and sell them as lithographs. Gala fires Captain Moore afterwards and hires a younger person to be the secretary. James goes to Captain Moore to ask him how it all happened. He tells him everything about the prints they sell in the gallery as lithos. Even the ones he made the rich lady buy were all prints. Ending their conversation, he tells James that Dali made a portrait of Gala worth a considerable fortune. Gala gave the painting to Jesus Christ and he also sold it. James confirms if the painting was indeed sold, and when he finds that it was, he tells Dali what Gala did. Dali doesn't want to believe it. He says Captain just said that to hurt his feelings, but James tells him he confirmed it from Christoph. Dali now changes the topic to why James used his telephone to call New York. He gets angry saying James has betrayed him. Amanda tries to make him understand that James was just trying to make him see who Gala really is and the bad things going on around him, but he doesn't listen and calls Amanda a traitor for taking James' side. Later that night, Dali asks Gala about it. She admits to doing that and explains that Jesus Christ needed money for his music. She adds that Jesus Christ is young and has a bright future ahead of him, so she is going to help him get to the top just like she did with him. She calls Dali the jealous old man. Dali loses his patience and raises his walking stick at Gala in an attempt to hit her. Gala takes a step back. She stumbles and falls down the stairs, hitting her head. Gala summons James when she gets better and spits into his face. Dolly, seeing this, says nothing about it. All he wants is to make Gala happy, so if it includes spitting into someone's face, he doesn't mind. Gala tells him to pack his belongings and leave. James packs everything and takes the book of signatures he made for Dolly along. Now back to where the movie began in 1985. It is where James was watching a television show that announced that Dolly is seriously ill. He travels to Spain to see him. When James gets to the hospital, he meets Amanda, who is now a pop star. She is also there to see Dolly, but he doesn't want anyone to see him in his current situation because he thinks he's old and ugly. Gala died 3 years ago, and since then, he hasn't been himself. He doesn't paint and barely eats. Amanda leaves for a show she has in Paris. Luckily for James, a nurse pushes Dolly in a wheelchair towards him while he is begging the doctor to make him see Dolly. Dolly remembers James as San Sebastian. James gives the book of signatures back to him and the nurse takes him away. James tells the doctor that Dolly remembered him. He used to call him San Sebastian and remembered that. The doctor makes it clear to James that Dolly gave the name San Sebastian to young men over the years, and he particularly knows 3 of them. Maybe James isn't as special as he thought he was. The movie ends with Dolly shaking and flipping through his signatures, remembering how he used to be vibrant and now stuck in a wheelchair.